If it wasn't for my useless best friend, Amy, the kind of girl who can't do much, but is a total pro at eating and drinking, I wouldn't have realized I might be pregnant. We'd just come out of a long lockdown, and I'd finally kicked the habit of hoarding fried chicken at home. The moment restrictions lifted, I dragged poor, cooped-up Amy out for a feast. Whatever she went through in that month-long isolation, it must have been intense. The minute we stepped out, she rushed us to a Chinese restaurant and ordered some soup that looked way too greasy. "It's full of protein," she said, winking. "You need it." The second that rich chicken soup hit the table, though I was hit with a wave of nausea, I dashed to the restroom with a hand over my mouth, while Amy looked on, puzzled, then calmly served herself a bowl. In the bathroom, I dry heaved, but nothing came out. After rinsing my mouth and sitting back down, I looked at the soup, and again, I felt a surge of nausea. After this happened a couple more times, Amy realized something was wrong and called the waiter over to have the soup taken away. "Olivia, when was your last period?" she asked, folding her hands on the table, her expression deadly serious. By that time, I was worn out and weak from all the nausea. Just sinking into my chair, gesturing dismissively. "It's not due yet. Mine usually comes at the end of the month." Amy raised an eyebrow. "Sweetie, if I remember right, you were stuck at home at the end of last month, and I didn't hear a word about it then." I blinked, trying to recall, and finally, through my hazy quarantine memories, I realized she was right. I hadn't had my period last month either. I looked down, surprised, at my still flat stomach, then back up at Amy, feeling dazed. "Am I pregnant?" Amy rolled her eyes. "How should I know if you're pregnant?" "Good point." And I felt a bit embarrassed. With a sigh, Amy pulled out her phone and began scrolling through her contacts. "Forget it. My uncle's at the hospital today. Let's just get you checked and find out for sure." I nodded silently, but my mind was racing, trying to figure out how this could have happened. My love life has been spotless since I broke up with my boyfriend of 5 years. So how could I have gotten pregnant? With all these questions buzzing around, I went to the hospital with Amy. We took the elevator up to the 3rd floor, and as I stepped out, I locked eyes with a face I instantly recognized. And just like that, memories I drowned in alcohol came crashing back. After a wild night at the club, I'd stumbled out, latched onto a strikingly handsome guy, and taken him to a nearby hotel. Oh my God, it was him. Before I could gather my thoughts, Amy was already leading me forward. With a big smile, Amy went up to him. "Uncle." I felt a surge of panic. I'd never imagined that he would turn out to be Amy's uncle. What kind of cosmic punishment was this? To avoid suspicion, I forced a smile, following Amy's lead and calling him uncle too. His eyes, narrow and cool, swept over me, showing a flash of surprise that he quickly hid, acting as if nothing unusual had happened. "My friend here might be pregnant," Amy announced, rattling off like a worried mom. "You're an orthopedic doctor, but you know people in the OB/GYN department. Can you help us find someone experienced to check her health and confirm the pregnancy?" Feeling embarrassed, I wanted to cover her mouth. If I'd known that he was Amy's uncle, I would never have come. Amy went on. "And if it's confirmed, you've got to talk to her about not keeping it. She's not financially stable enough to raise a child. I mean, you must handle cases like this all the time. So I'm sure you know what to say. She might not listen to me." Her blunt words were almost comically direct. If I hadn't known Amy for years, I'd probably think she was being mean. But one look at her wide-eyed, well-meaning expression reminded me that she really was trying to look out for me. Amy's got the looks of a captivating beauty, all glamour and charm. But she's truly just a lovely face with an empty head. Such a beauty if only she'd stop talking sometimes. But honestly, I had to admit, Amy's concerns weren't totally off base. I'd been out of school for a couple of years now, and with my degree in humanities from an average university, plus the bleak job market, finding stable work has been tough. I haven't saved much either. Now, in this city packed with dead-end jobs and ruthless capitalism, I'm scraping by with a modest income, in a job that's barely stable. I can barely support myself, let alone a baby. If I kept this child, I'd be struggling to survive. Bringing a child into these circumstances would be irresponsible to both of us. The more I thought about it, the more certain I was that I couldn't keep this baby. Daniel listened quietly, his expression shifting as though he wanted to say something, but chose to keep silent. Finally, he turned to Amy. "All right, I'll take her in. You wait here." He led the way, his tall figure towering over me. With those long legs, he walked at a steady pace, but I had to pick up my speed to keep up. After a while, I noticed he slowed down, as if waiting for me. For someone with such a detached appearance, this uncle had a bit of warmth to him. When we reached the office, a wave of nervousness hit me. I'd never been here before, and the discomfort was real. Daniel explained to the familiar doctor that I needed an ultrasound. The doctor's eyes danced between the two of us, her gaze so piercing it was as though she wanted to drill holes through us. Oh wow. So the untouchable heartthrob of our hospital finally descends from his pedestal. "So, what's going on between you two?" she teased, while the nurses nearby nudged each other, giggling and stealing glances in our direction. The gossip was anything but subtle. "Personal matters," he replied coolly, offering no further explanation. Seeing me hovering in the doorway, he frowned and gently tugged me inside. Sensing my tension and unease, he hesitated before saying, "I'll wait for you outside. You'll be fine." There was an awkward edge to his voice, but the words were oddly reassuring. Suddenly, the cold hospital room felt a little less intimidating. The ultrasound results were in. 6 weeks pregnant. As I held the report, I felt as if I were floating on air, my steps a little unsteady. Amy suddenly appeared, snatching the report from my hands. Her eyes wide in surprise. Her expression shifted dramatically, flickering between joy, anger, sadness, and disbelief within seconds. "Whose baby is this? When did you get a boyfriend? How come I didn't know? Seriously, are we even friends if you're hiding this from me?" Amy exclaimed, her brows furrowed. "And does he know what it means to be responsible? You need to call him here, so I can give him a piece of my mind for daring to mess with my good friend." I pulled back slightly, not daring to respond. I thought to myself, he's right in front of you. Cautiously, I glanced at my uncle, noticing his dark expression, lips pressed tight, and eyes cast down as if he were lost in thought. I found myself wanting to interview the person at the center of this situation. What's it like to be scolded to your face without a chance to defend yourself? It must feel so frustrating. Suddenly, I felt a pang of sympathy for him. What was happening to me? "Uncle, you must think that boyfriend of mine is unreliable, right? He deserves to be scolded, right?" Amy tugged at his sleeve. "You have to help me talk some sense into her. I'm worried she's not thinking straight and could be deceived by some jerk. This child has to be taken care of, and she needs to cut ties with that man. Stop saying such ridiculous things." My uncle raised his eyes, his expression calm, and spoke softly. "Actually, Hold on." I interrupted quickly. "You guys don't need to worry about me. I'm not a child. And this pressure is a lot for me." I tried to lighten the mood with a joke. Amy's eyes widened again, ready to scold me, so I quickly shifted the topic. "I'm starving." "Really? Let's go get something to eat first." From my uncle's demeanor, it seemed like he was about to confess that he was the father of the child. But now was not the right time. If he did, with Amy's temperament, it would surely create chaos. Amy has always viewed me in a one-dimensional way, seeing me as a naive newcomer to the world who needs her protection. Her ex-boyfriend was someone she introduced to me, and she never imagined he would turn out to be trouble. When he cheated, Amy was furious and had him beaten up black and blue. Still, she felt guilty toward me, constantly saying she wanted to make it up to me. Consequently, she became more invested in my love life than my own mother. She repeatedly pushed me to go on blind dates and explored various elite dating platforms. To that, all I can say is, I can't take it anymore. If she knew I had been the one to flirt with her uncle first, she'd probably be shocked speechless. Today has already been overwhelming. I don't want to add to the chaos, I just need some peace. What are you thinking? Daniel paused for a moment, and as he saw me, Amy, stepping outside to take a call, he asked for my thoughts. My mind was a jumbled mess, and all I wanted was to make a quick escape. So, I casually replied, "This is too complicated. I need some time to think about the children. Let's discuss it later." He seemed to want to say more, but was abruptly interrupted by a voice calling out, "Daniel, there's an emergency. The director needs you to hurry." A nurse rushed over and inserted herself between us. Daniel frowned and gave me a lingering look before leaving with the nurse. After walking about 10 meters, he turned back, hurrying over to me and suggesting we add each other on WhatsApp for easier communication. I handed him my phone, and he hesitated before asking, "You won't block my number later, will you?" Honestly, I had planned to do just that, but his tone sounded a bit desperate. The handsome guy was worried I might delete his contact. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction at that thought. As I internally scolded my own vanity, I assured him I wouldn't delete his number. Just then Amy walked in, excitedly adding, "Exactly. If you don't feel well later, you don't have to rush to the hospital. You can just ask him." This is the first time my uncle has actively added a girl's contact. His profile picture was a patch of black, fitting his overall vibe. "Take care of your friend on the way back. And be safe," he repeatedly urged Amy, wanting her to look after me. The first 3 months of pregnancy are a high-risk period, and we can't afford any mishaps. After that, he hurried away at the nurse's prompting, leaving behind a tall silhouette fading into the distance. It wasn't wise to linger at the hospital, and it seemed like Amy had taken it upon herself to care for me as a top priority. She carefully supported me, and we quickly left the hospital. Amy asked me to wait at the entrance while she went to get the car. 5 minutes later, a pink Maserati pulled up in front of me, and the window rolled down to reveal a familiar, lovely face. Yes, Amy is loaded. If she weren't also living off her family's wealth, I might have already gone to her company looking for a sugar daddy. Actually, Amy had offered me a job at her family's company before, but my pride had gotten in the way, and I turned her down. After facing the harsh realities of life, I wish I could slap my past self for that decision. On the ride home, Amy proudly introduced her uncle like an obsessed fan promoting her idol. From her, I learned that her uncle's full name is Daniel Chase. He's 28 years old and graduated from a top university. He feels a lot of pressure and has always worked hard in both school and his job, because if he doesn't succeed as a doctor, he'll have to go back and inherit a billion-dollar family business. Daniel's father tried many ways to ensure he would take over the family business, but none worked out. Daniel is almost obsessed with medicine. Once he dove into that world, he couldn't pull away, to the point where he has never had a girlfriend, making him a true solo since birth. And insiders have ranked him as the top diamond bachelor. Amy mentioned that Daniel had been her idol since childhood. She admired her uncle immensely for being so talented and brave enough to defy his family's expectations for his dreams. Unfortunately, she had to rely on her family's financial support, which kept her from fully pursuing her own aspirations. She always enjoyed being around her uncle, but he rarely paid her any attention. So, she was quite surprised this time that he was willing to help and went out of his way to do so. Amy said she wanted to thank me because I had helped bridge the gap between her and her idol. I awkwardly chuckled and avoided her eyes, hoping she wouldn't find out about my night with her idol and come after me with a giant machete. After dropping me off at home, Amy headed back, saying she had thought of a new idea and needed to hurry to write it down. By the way, she's also a romance novelist. I slumped on the sofa, staring at the new contact on WhatsApp in a daze. I checked Daniel's moments. He had only shared 2 articles about popular science this year. His meticulous approach suited the medical profession quite well. I often heard rumors online that young male doctors are notorious playboys and infamous for being a breeding ground for scumbags. I just wasn't sure if Daniel was a refreshing exception among male doctors, or if he was just hiding it too well. Or maybe those rumors are just exaggerated. Sigh. Why do I keep overthinking? I slapped my forehead in frustration. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. He sent a cheerful hello emoji, but the next moment, he retracted that emoji and sent a new message. Let's meet. It was a simple, straightforward statement. It wasn't a request but more of a notification. I couldn't help but remember the dread of being at the mercy of my strict thesis advisor while revising my graduation paper. He always spoke in short, commanding sentences. Reacting instinctively, I typed back okay. Damn it, my fingers acted faster than my brain. Just as I was about to take it back, he had already sent the time and address. Our private meeting was now officially set. As time ticked away, getting closer to our meeting time, an unknown fear settled in, making me restless. When it was finally time to leave, I downed a big cup of water, casually tousled my hair, and rushed to the restaurant we agreed upon. The restaurant exuded an artistic vibe, featuring a couple of swings draped with blooming vines, while a musician played a beautiful tune on the violin nearby. As soon as I entered, I spotted Daniel. He stood out amidst the crowd, his features as striking as a painting, dressed in a sharp suit and gold-rimmed glasses, looking every bit the refined gentleman. With an air of restraint about him, he was clearly well put together. I glanced at my own disheveled outfit and felt it was yet another day of social embarrassment. But it didn't matter. He wasn't my ex-boyfriend or my current boyfriend. I steeled myself, telling myself not to be afraid. Olivia, you must face reality bravely. With my head held high in a wide smile, I strode toward him, pulling out a chair and sitting down confidently. They say that if you pretend to be confident long enough, it will become real. But honestly, that's nonsense. While my face smiled, my insides were still churning with anxiety. What would you like to eat? He handed me the menu with ease, his tone so familiar it felt like we'd known each other for years. I went with the flow and began to order, worried about splitting the bill. Especially given my current financial situation, I chose mostly cheaper dishes. But to my surprise, even the least expensive items were 5 times what you'd pay at a regular place. With each dish I ordered, it felt like a hit to my wallet. I was running low on money, and I felt like I was running out of options too. Once I finished ordering, he took back the menu, took a glance, then furrowed his brow, crossing out several items that were all my favorites with stronger flavors. You're pregnant, so it's not advisable to eat spicy or cold foods. You need to focus on high-quality protein, he said, adjusting the order by adding 4 or 5 lighter seafood dishes. He asked for my input, and seeing me nod, he handed the menu to the waiter. During the meal, if I so much as glanced at a dish, he would instantly serve it to me. They say that too much flattery is often insincere, hinting at ulterior motives. The more attentive he was, the more nervous I felt. Finally, after finishing the meal, this silent pressure was over. He then broached the serious topic. What are your plans regarding the baby? That direct question caught me off guard. And I stammered, didn't I say I need more time to think? He met my gaze, speaking earnestly. I respect your decision. It's your body. Whether to keep the baby is entirely up to you. If you decide to go through with it, I'll take responsibility, and we can get married whenever you like. Perhaps it was the weight of his words, but I found his voice deeply magnetic, so soothing it felt like it could resonate in my ears. Regardless of whether his words were true, or if he could keep that promise in the future. At this moment, he had the right attitude. Are you serious? I asked, wanting to be sure. He showed no sign of impatience and reiterated what he had said, providing me with reassurance. As a potential husband, Daniel was successful in his career, came from a wealthy family, and had a refined, aloof look that checked all the boxes for me. It would be a lie to say I wasn't intrigued. But could I truly accept such an unexpected fortune? I pondered this question. Honestly, I didn't have that kind of confidence. Yet giving up now felt like throwing away $1 million opportunity. I was torn and fell silent. Suddenly, a somewhat familiar voice rang out from the entrance. Olivia? Snapping back to reality, I looked up to find my ex-boyfriend and his current girlfriend standing there. My ex was dressed in a branded sweatshirt and casual pants, still looking at me with that same disdainful expression. His girlfriend wore the same sweatshirt with a plaid skirt, and if you ignored their faces, you'd mistake them for college kids. It seemed they both still enjoyed pretending to be younger than they were. And now he had found a girlfriend who matched his vibe, and together they were playing the role of a youthful couple. Mike ignored me, sizing up Daniel with a hint of envy in his eyes. Wow, Olivia, you broke up with me for him, huh? You're so superficial, willing to do anything for money. he accused loudly. Thank goodness I got away from you. A woman like you is just disgusting. I was taken aback by his shamelessness. He was the one who cheated. He was the one who had sought wealth and clung to a rich woman's coattails. How had the roles reversed? Had he developed selective amnesia? Mike, have you aged prematurely? Early onset dementia, perhaps? I retorted. You were the one who cheated and wanted to break up, okay? The rich woman beside him didn't hesitate to slap him across the face. How dare you lie to me? No, babe, that's impossible. She's the one smearing me to cover her own vanity. Mike stammered, covering his face while glaring at me. You cheap woman. If you keep talking nonsense, don't blame me for being rude. I never hit women. But today might be an exception, and I'll teach you a lesson. I was furious but laughed instead, my blood boiling. Before I could think it through, I grabbed the cup on the table and splashed its contents at Mike's face in a swift motion. Water splashed everywhere. Some hit the top of his head, soaking his hair and sticking together, exposing large patches of his scalp. He was already balding in such a short time. Karma was truly a thing. What's wrong with you? The rich woman stared at his bald spot, her fingers trembling. She pulled out a small mirror and handed it to Mike, who let out a shrill scream. Oh my God. This can't be real. This can't be happening. The situation started to turn absurd. A few minutes later, piecing together the rich woman's words, I began to understand the context. It seemed Mike had painted himself as a heartbroken, love-struck man betrayed by a vain girlfriend in front of the rich woman. Now that he ran into me, his facade was shattered. Feeling a bit sorry for the rich woman, I thought she might have unwittingly stepped into the role of the mistress. I wanted to advise her to stay away from a scumbag like Mike. After all, as women who had been wronged, why should we make things harder for each other? But to my surprise, the rich woman, with a peculiar mindset, lunged at me angrily. He may be a jerk, but he's mine. Don't even think about it. You cheap woman, how dare you bully my man? I'll make you pay. I quickly dodged her attack, but my foot accidentally caught on the table leg, making me stumble. In that critical moment, Daniel pulled me into his arms and pushed the rich woman aside. He held me tightly, his cool scent wrapping around me, almost making me feel like I was drowning in his embrace. Seeing his girlfriend pushed aside, Mike rushed over, cursing and no longer caring about his bald head. Daniel executed a perfect move, twisting Mike's arm behind his back and kicking his knee. Mike fell to the ground immediately. His other hand, still refusing to give up, tried to hit me, but he couldn't reach me or Daniel at all. Daniel continued to twist Mike's arm, causing him to scream in pain and beg for mercy. I won't do it again, I swear. Stay away from Olivia. If you show up in front of her again, I'll hit you, Daniel warned calmly, still maintaining a steady tone. To anyone else, it sounded terrifying. After leaving Mike behind, Daniel took my hand and led me out of the restaurant, drawing many admiring glances along the way. The contrast between Daniel's bravery and Mike's disgrace was stark. Feeling protected was an incredible sensation. I had never experienced anything like this before. Back when I was still with Mike, despite being 1.8 meters tall, he was thin and weak. He wouldn't stand up for himself when others insulted him, let alone protect me. I was always the one stepping in front to defend him. My heart raced, beating faster than usual, feeling like it was about to explode. This was too dangerous. I feared I might just lose my heart to him. Daniel guided me to a classic Mercedes parked by the roadside, often referred to as the Rolls-Royce of cars. I was about to get into the back seat when he, with a serious expression, said, "Wow, what a high and mighty attitude. It's the first time someone has directly asked me to be their driver." Feeling a bit embarrassed, I stepped back out of the rear seat and stood next to the car, unsure of what to do. Finally, after he gestured, I got into the passenger seat. Once inside, the atmosphere felt a bit awkward until Daniel broke the silence. "I didn't expect you to have such a strong personality." His voice held a playful tone. "You're quite skilled at dealing with problem." I shot back, not wanting to back down. "Do you like your boyfriends who can handle the problem?" he asked casually, a teasing lilt in his voice. Oh, he was flirting. Seeing that I was silent, he continued, "You were pretty sharp when you were arguing just now. Why the sudden shyness?" His playful banter came effortlessly. I thought for a while and couldn't think of a response, so I turned my head in annoyance. Suddenly, he leaned in closer, reducing the distance between us to just 10 centimeters. His warm breath brushed against my skin, making me blush and causing my heart to race as I held my breath. What was he going to do? Was he about to? Oh my God! This was too embarrassing. In that moment, all I could focus on was Daniel's handsome lips moving closer. My mind buzzed with chaotic thoughts. Click. With the sound of the seatbelt locking, Daniel sat back up, pulling away gradually. It turned out he was just fastening my seatbelt. I was convinced he was trying to flirt with me. Why else would he have dressed up for our outing and leaned in to help me with my seatbelt, creating such a flirty vibe? He could have simply reminded me verbally. Yep, Daniel was definitely doing it on purpose. The car began to move smoothly, blending into the traffic. How's work been lately? Is everything going smoothly? He asked, returning to a casual tone that felt a bit like a concerned elder. Talking about work opened the floodgates for me. Don't even get me started. This year has been rough. I've been losing money no matter what I do. My boss cries poor every day, and I'm worried he'll skip town without paying our salaries. I sighed, feeling drained. If the company goes under, I'll have to start job hunting, which is just so annoying. Interviews mean dealing with all those awkward personal questions. Just thinking about it gives me a headache. I'd love to become a nun. That way, I wouldn't have to worry about job hunting. As Daniel drove, he occasionally nodded in agreement. He spoke little, lacking the usual preachy advice that elders often give. He was an excellent listener. No matter how outrageous my tales were, he never showed any doubt or surprise, maintaining his calm demeanor. In the midst of our enjoyable conversation, I didn't realize we had arrived home. When the car stopped, I was still talking. He didn't rush me, quietly keeping his driving posture while listening to my ramblings. Whenever something amused him, he would break into a charming smile that was absolutely captivating. I finally paused when my throat felt dry and sheepishly laughed. Sorry for rambling on. You should head back. I'll go upstairs now. I opened the door. Ready to get out? Have some water first. Daniel handed me a bottle of mineral water with a smile. We can continue our chat next time if you're free. I have a meeting coming up, so I won't walk you upstairs. Take care of yourself, and feel free to call if anything comes up. I felt guilty for taking up the doctor's precious time. I bowed slightly and said, Dr. Daniel, take care. I'm really sorry for wasting your time. Not long after I got home, my phone rang, and I excitedly ran over to check. It was Mom. I thought it would be Daniel. Olivia, how have you been lately? The sound of mahjong clattering in the background was quite lively. I haven't called in a while. You're not mad at me, are you? Of course not. I silently complained to myself. I was just happy to hear from her. Every time she calls, it's just to pressure me about blind dates, marriage, and having kids. Sure enough, this time was no different. Do you remember the girl your uncle's family has who's your age? She's getting engaged next week, and is always bragging about how great her fiancé is. I couldn't avoid these topics again. If you have a suitable boy around, make sure to bring him home to show me. If not, I have someone in mind. A friend's son is in the same city as you. He was asking about you the other day. Sweat dripped down my forehead as I racked my brain, trying to come up with a polite way to refuse. In the end, I had to resort to my usual trick. Mom, my stomach really hurts. I might have diarrhea. I can't talk now, bye. While it wasn't the most elegant excuse, it was certainly effective. As for what Mom said, I didn't take it too seriously, but if I really had to bring someone home, it wouldn't be the worst idea. Daniel, after all, was practically the chosen one. If I asked him to accompany me home, he should agree, right? Okay, I decided. I'd talk to him in a few days. This would also be a good chance to test how serious he was about wanting to marry me. I didn't expect my mom to be such an action-oriented person. That evening, she told me she had everything arranged for Saturday and insisted that I dress nicely and be on time. The words of refusal were on the tip of my tongue, but I had to swallow them back. Well, I would just have to clarify things with that boy face to face on the day. Still, I felt a bit uneasy. I video chatted with Amy, and told her about all the messy things that happened today. From my ex-boyfriend to my mom. It was all overwhelming. Amy also supported me in being clear with him. She mentioned that if I were to terminate a pregnancy, it needed to be done quickly, or it could harm my body. If necessary, I should have a good talk with the baby's father. If I decided to keep it, I needed to get married right away, no skimping on the house and car. Otherwise, it would be awkward to wear a wedding dress with a growing belly in a few months. Amy went on, and I finally said I was tired and needed to sleep before hanging up the call. Under my mother's constant nagging, I still found it hard to go on this blind date, treating it as just a process to get through. On the day of the date, I arrived punctually at the agreed place. My date was a handsome programmer named Terry. In fact, we had met before. We could even call ourselves classmates, though we weren't in the same major. Thanks to our mothers being good friends, we had shared a few meals together. After exchanging some pleasantries and compliments, I brought up the purpose of our meeting. I know you're here to appease your parents, and so am I. Why don't we cooperate and tell our families we met, but just didn't click? He stood up anxiously, his fair face flushing slightly. It's not just for show. I'm serious about this. Through his halting words, I learned about a long history of his unrequited love. Yes, the object of his affection was me. He confessed that he had liked me since high school, but due to the pressure of academics and the worry that it might affect my studies, he kept his feelings hidden. Once we got to college, he felt that it wouldn't interfere with my education anymore and decided to confess his feelings, only to find out he was too late. I'd already had a boyfriend. I froze, not expecting this surprise revelation. Putting aside the fact that I was pregnant and that I might have felt a bit of attraction to Daniel, I had never had any romantic thoughts about Terry. I'm sorry, but I'm into someone else. You'll find someone even better, I said carefully, trying to avoid causing any more hurt. Who is it? You must be lying to me. He chuckled, reasonably adding, if you're still unsure, take your time to think it over. I can wait, there's no rush. Just as I steeled myself to speak, a familiar voice rang in my ears. Olivia, come ir. Daniel walked in from the doorway and reached out his hand to me. I stood there momentarily, then moved closer, allowing him to hold my hand before intertwining our fingers. Don't wait anymore. You don't stand a chance. She's mine. How did Daniel end up here? Although I had thought about bringing him home, I never actually voiced it. But the situation demanded a response, and I joined Daniel in rejecting Terry. Yes, he's the one I like. I won't ever like you. And you don't need to wait for me. My words were firm and ruthless. Terry's face shifted from red to pale, and he eventually left, disappointed. Watching him walk away made me feel a bit uneasy. Did I come on too strong? Had enough of the show? A deep voice whispered in my ear. I looked up to see Daniel turning his head away, his expression somewhat awkward. What's with the jealousy? I teased boldly. Daniel shot me a sidelong glance with his beautiful, narrow eyes but didn't reply. He then took me to a restaurant near the school and slowly began to recount his own history of unrequited love. Coincidentally, the object of his affection was me again. What kind of luck was I having today, with two people admitting to having crushes on me? My heart swelled with joy as I locked eyes with him, my gaze intense. Daniel pressed his lips together for a moment, then reached out and covered my eyes. He told me that he first saw me at school. During our sophomore year, our department held a talent show, and Amy had dragged me into performing. Amy was making her debut, and while she had wanted to invite her parents, they couldn't make it, so she asked Daniel to fill in instead. When Daniel saw me dancing, he fell for me at first sight, but just as he was about to ask for my contact information, he got called away by the hospital due to an emergency, which is why I didn't see him. Once things settled down, he heard from Amy that I had a boyfriend. That night at the bar, I happened to run into my ex-boyfriend after we broke up. Maybe it was nostalgia or too much to drink, but when I spotted Daniel, emboldened by the moment, I dragged him to a hotel. Daniel had come out at the request of a friend, and I ended up interrupting him halfway. His confession sounded like music to my ears, and I was completely smitten. Am I only worth $200 for the whole night? Daniel said, pulling out his wallet and placing it on the table. "It's a misunderstanding," I awkwardly explained, getting flustered and unable to clarify. Yes, that morning. I had been so shocked that I didn't even notice when I lost my wallet. It just happened to have 200 in it, which led to Daniel's misunderstanding. Daniel still looked gloomy, suddenly struck by an idea. I leaned in and quickly pecked him on the lips. "This incident has caused me serious emotional distress, and you owe me compensation," Daniel said with a serious tone. I shivered, feeling like I couldn't escape $1 million debt. "Let's just call it even," he chuckled. "You've got a bargain there." Just then my mom called to check in. Daniel answered first, quickly establishing his identity as my boyfriend and mentioning that we'd visit in 2 days. I could clearly hear my mother's delighted laughter on the other end. The next day, Daniel took me to meet his parents, who were prominent figures in the business world and had appeared on TV multiple times. They were a power couple in the industry. After leaving, I was filled with anxiety, fearing they might offer me a large sum of money to leave their son alone. Upon hearing my concerns, Daniel frowned and said, "You're dreaming. Now that you're pregnant, they'll be eager for you to become part of our family by tomorrow." After hearing what he said, I decided to make it a little more difficult for Daniel, so that he would feel that I was not so easy to pursue. Thus, Daniel embarked on a long journey to win me over. Amy was still unaware of who the father of the child was, and kept insisting that I break up with the father of my child. But after seeing fresh meals, delicate flowers, and even some maternity products every day, Amy began to waver. "How about we take him out for a spin?" I bit my lip to hold back my laughter and shook my head. If Amy found out I was about to become her little aunt, I might as well die from embarrassment. No worries, I had a trick up my sleeve. In less than a month, Daniel and I held a simple wedding ceremony blessed by a pastor. That day, Daniel and I stood shoulder to shoulder, our smiles identical. After getting married, I came clean to Amy, who then went on a playful blackmailing spree. I laughed like a generous money god and readily agreed to her demands. After all, it wasn't my money being spent, haha. Who says the ability to spend money isn't a talent?